miss the live session will be able to watch it later.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, the plan for today is very simple. I will introduce myself, then tell you about the course. I also do have a few questions for you. So there are a few areas that I'm not sure what the best way to organize it is. And so I would like to get your input and your preferences, and maybe we'll decide together how we will manage some of those things. A little bit about myself first. As you can tell by my accent, I am from not too far from you. So I was born in Ukraine. When I was 16, I left Ukraine, so it was like 25 years ago. And I first went to Germany. I spent 1 year in München, and then 1 year in Köln. But it was in the 90s, a long, long time ago. I also lived in Norway for a little while. And then for my kind of bigger education, I moved to the United States. So I went to the University of Texas at Dallas first. Then I did my doctoral studies in Canada, University of Calgary. And then I worked in Canada for a while, and now it's been a little over 10 years in the United States at the University of North Carolina here in Greensboro. So I'm an associate professor of international business, and I specialize in kind of cross-cultural teams. Or situations when people from different cultures come together and have to complete a project. And as you can imagine, all kinds of things can go wrong. And so my job is to research and advise companies as to what can be done to minimize those problems and how the potential and performance of international teams can be improved. Lately, I've been doing work primarily on so-called global virtual teams. So that's the teams that are not in the same room, but are dispersed all around the world. And so there you have this kind of added element of virtuality. So not only do you have the cultural differences, but you also have the time zone differences. You also have the need to communicate online. And so much of my research revolves around this X-Culture project that I will talk about in a minute. So we do that as an educational project, but also as a research platform, as a consultant platform. So work closely with many companies. So it's a mix of education / research / business. And so I'll talk about that also in a minute. So, but anyway, I've done this course with you guys. I think it's been 3 times, and then we skipped a couple of years. I was too busy, and now I'm very happy to be back with Vilnius University. So hopefully it will go well this year. Looking forward to it. And so now let me talk a little bit about the course itself. There will be 2 big components to the course, theory and practice. Theory will be very similar to what you would see in any course. So we will have a series of lectures, and we tried in the past to have lectures live like we have now, but that didn't work very well for several reasons. One, sometimes the technology doesn't work. So sometimes the sound is not clear, sometimes the connection is not working, video may not be fine, so that's a problem. Second, not all students can always show up for the lectures, and then it's kind of a problem because what do you do with them? So what you would do instead is I will record the lectures for you, and you can watch them anytime you want. So this way, 1, the quality of the picture and the sound will be good. So you will be watching a recording recorded locally with a good camera. And 2, you don't have to watch it at a particular hour. So if you happen to be busy or sick, you can always watch it later. And so this way, you will get the video lectures as if we are talking together, but at the same time, if something goes wrong technologically, you can still watch it whenever, a little later. There will be also a series of readings, and that's where I would like to ask you your preferences. So in the perfect world, I would like you to have a textbook, and in the syllabus that I will post on Moodle a little bit later, I just got access to Moodle literally a few hours ago, so still need to upload everything. But in the syllabus there, I provided 2 books that I recommend you get for the course. One is the book that I use in my course. So it's Wild International Business. The problem here is that this book is pretty expensive. In fact, most of these books are expensive. I don't know how much it would cost in Lithuania, But in here in the United States, my students pay about $120 for this book. I did check, and you have this book at the library. So you have it at your library. It's an older edition, but it's perfectly good enough. But I'm not sure how it would work if you have, I'm not sure how many copies they have, but I suspect only one, maybe two. And so you can probably buy a used edition again here if you buy an older one, like this is edition 8. If you buy edition 7, 6, or 5, they're almost identical. But here again, you can buy them for like $2 a copy because students use them in the past years, don't need it anymore. With you, I'm not sure if it's available, and I'm not sure if it's a normal thing to buy books. So I noticed that in the previous semester, whoever taught the course, this was one of the required books, but I'm not sure how how they managed it. So the question I have for you is, would you prefer to have a book and everybody buys it, or should we do something else? And I do have a few other solutions as a backup. So can you tell me how it works with the textbooks at your school? So do you normally buy them, or is the school providing them, or do you go and get them at the library? Like, what's the normal approach in other courses?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, anyway, you cannot see me, but we usually get like PDF files or like ebooks. We don't really have like textbooks, like the paper ones.
Okay.
So, yeah. But I don't know if they're available online. So.
We have a couple other options. One, I found a book online available as they call it Creative Commons license, which means you can download PDF and use it whichever way you want. And so that one is available for free in PDF. In fact, I already provided the link in the syllabus. You'll have it. The only problem there is that international business textbooks, they're very similar, but they're not identical. So that book, it does contain pretty much all of the chapters that we need, but it describes it in a slightly different way. Obviously, it's a different author. And so it may not be, it will satisfy you probably only about 85%. So it's almost the same, but slightly different. And so I'm not sure if we want to do that as well. And so we have several options here. With my own students, I do recommend that they buy the book, but I give them two things that kind of substitute the book. One, for every topic, we have a lecture. So as long as you watch the video lecture, you technically don't need the textbook because you watch the lecture. Two, the slides, I deliberately designed them to be very wordy, or a lot of text. So the slides are designed to be not pretty to the eye, but they read almost like class notes. And so technically you can read the slides almost like full sentences, almost as if it's a short version of the textbook. And so technically, if you watch the video lectures and you follow with the slides, you probably don't even need the textbook. And then on top of that, you do have the textbook in the library. And then you have that other textbook, the free one, that is also available online. So I'm just not sure if it would be sufficient. Maybe some of you prefer to receive your information only in writing, like only the readings, in which case those people might still want to have the textbook and might want to read the chapters. Although, as I said, as long as you watch the video lectures and you have the notes, you probably don't need it. And so I'm just curious, what your preference would be. Should we try to design it so you don't have to worry about the textbook at all? Or would you prefer that we still kind of have the textbook and you would be, if not expected, then at least recommended to read it? So what are your preferences? Because I think I can make it so that the textbook will not be necessary at all. As I said, the lectures can be even more detailed. The notes can be even more detailed. And then if you really like, if there is a chapter that you're completely not getting, you can always go to the library. As I said, you have at least one copy there and you just read that. Plus, obviously, you have the free book that you can also read, and probably that will give you enough information. Or would you still prefer me to find a way to get you those books so you have textbooks as well? So what are your preferences here?
It's actually really fine with the lectures and the notes. I think that we are going to be okay without the textbooks.
So is everyone in agreement that if we do the lectures in a little bit more detail, the slides in a little bit more detail, that should be sufficient? You're okay with? The challenge here is you have to promise that you will watch the lectures, because if you don't watch them, you will not be able to answer the exam questions. Even though many topics will look familiar to you, like, like currency exchange rates or international trade, you would think, well, of course I know. I've traveled overseas. I know that, we use euros in Europe and they use American dollars in America. So it seems like the topic is, familiar to you, but you need to know a little bit more. So, and I know that sometimes people find video lectures too long because it's like an hour each topic. And so they think, oh, it's better just to have a textbook, flip the pages, 15 minutes, more or less done. Let's do this. Let me then prepare the video lectures in great detail. And I already have the recordings of many of them because I've been teaching this course online for a while. But then I'll go through the slides and make sure that you have them in detail enough so that you can read them almost like a summary of the textbook. And what I'll do, maybe, I think we allow to copy up to 30% of the textbook. And so what I'll do is maybe for some lectures that will be a little bit more challenging, maybe I'll just scan that copy and send you the PDFs. And then the chapters that are easier, or if they are covered very well in that free book, you can just use that book, or as I said, probably video lecture will be more than sufficient. And so let's see how that goes. If at some point we determine that, no, you really need the textbook, I'll see what we can do about that. Maybe we'll buy a license for some sort of electronic copy and I'll send that to you somehow. Although I think it should not be necessary. All right, sounds like a plan for as far as the book goes. Okay, so then as far as the theory, it will be very simple. So we will have 3 blocks to the course, and we will have 3 exams. And so each exam will cover approximately 4 chapters. So you will read 4 chapters, or you will watch the video lectures for 4 chapters, and then there will be an exam. You can watch those video lectures anytime you want, so as long as you do them before the exam. The exams will be online, obviously. And before the exam, so even though we will not have live video lectures like this one, I still would like to have sort of like office hours or review session before the exam. So we will have 3 review sessions like this one before the exams, where you will be able to ask questions if you have any questions based on the video lectures. I will give you a little bit more overview as to what to expect on the exam. And then obviously, if you will have any questions about any other aspect of the course, that will be our opportunity. So we'll have 3 sessions of that kind. One more thing I would like to do when it comes to theory, I would like to have a little, let's call it a quiz after each lecture. So it will be more for participation. So I will not be too worried about your answers being correct, but I would like you to do your readings or watch the video lectures regularly. And so there will be a quick quiz at the end of each chapter. So you will be able to take it anytime you want, but the deadline will be every week. So each week there is 1 lecture that you need to watch. And then by the end of the week, you will have to submit your little quiz. As I said, don't worry too much about correct answers on the quiz. It will be open-ended. It will be mainly for me to see and make sure that you are progressing well, that you're doing your readings and lectures on time. And then also to prompt you to do it regularly and not wait until the last day and then try to cover everything right before the exam. So, but this part will be very similar to the regular course that you take. So there is a lecture, there is a little homework, there is an exam. And so that's pretty easy. Now the other component will be a little different, and that will be the practical component. So that will be the X-Culture project, X-Culture, I think we have a logo somewhere there. And that's the project where you will have to complete a business consulting assignment while working in an international team. And so let me give you a little historic overview where it came from so that you understand what we're trying to do. And then I will tell you a little bit more about how it goes. And then if you have any questions, I will answer those too. So I assume that's your first international business course. And so I'm not sure if you will fully understand what I'm trying to say here, but let me describe this, a typical situation in my lecture that I experienced years ago. So I would come in the classroom and I would be talking to my students and telling them that, for example, people in Lithuania are different from people in Canada. And so when you want to do business with Lithuanians or Ukrainians or Germans or French, there will be all kinds of differences that may affect your team dynamics. They have different culture, they do things differently, they have different institutional structures, they have different economies, so there will be some differences. And the students would look at me and not quite understand what I'm trying to say here. So I always had that feeling that it's almost like I'm trying to teach them how to swim, but I'm in the classroom. And so I'm trying to explain to them, you know what, water is wet. And they're like, what exactly does it mean? And so I thought it would be a good idea if I were able to give them an opportunity to experience those cultural differences, economic differences in real life, so that it's not me telling them, but they actually can try and learn it, you know, from experience. And so the idea that I had was that maybe I should have or find a professor in a different country who also teaches international business. And I thought maybe then I can take my students and I can take the students of that professor, and we can put them in international teams. And so this way they will be working with people from other cultures. They will be working across the time zones, across the institutional, economic, political divides. And so this way, when I tell them that, for example, people from France are different, they actually can test it in real life because they work with people from France on their team and maybe, you know, whatever other country we could find. And so one day, it's been about 8 years ago, one day I simply sent out an email through the Academy of International Business. It is our main sort of professional association. And I simply asked those professors in all around the world, they have members like in 80 countries. I asked if anyone wants to work with me on this project, if anyone wants to put their students and my students in a global virtual team, and so see what happens. And to my surprise, quite a few people responded. So it was like 5 p.m. when I sent out that email. I went home, I had my dinner, checked like 2 hours later, and there are literally dozens of responses. And so before I knew it, many people responded. And so first time when we did it, we had we had 7 countries and seven universities. But then ever since, the project has been growing. So for example, last semester we had 5,500 students from 157 universities in 43 countries. So it's a really global project. We had people from every continent: Australia, Asia, Europe, Africa, Latin America, North America, island groups. We never had anyone from Antarctica, so hopefully one day. But for now, you know, all inhabited continents have been represented in the project, all major island groups. And so what we do is we place those students in global virtual teams, usually about 7 students or 6 students per team, so that each one is in a different country. And so this way, each team is comprised of, as I said, about 6 people plus or minus. Everybody is somewhere else. And so this way, they have to deal with the cultural differences, language differences or accent differences, time zone differences, all kinds of differences. And so this way, they gain this international cross-cultural experience in real life, so that when we're talking about it in the classroom, they sort of know what we're trying to say here. On top of that, another interesting thing happened in 2013. One of our professors was doing a consulting project with Mercedes-Benz, and they were trying to develop a marketing strategy for Southeast Asia. And so they had some sort of like a brainstorm session, and so they were trying to come up with the best ideas. And then that professor said, you know what, there is this project Xculture. And so they have, at that time, we must have had like 2,000 students or so. And she says, maybe we should ask the students and see if maybe they can come up with some good ideas. And so they came to us and presented what we call a challenge. So how would you advertise Mercedes-Benz trucks and buses? It was for trucks and buses in Southeast Asia. And the students actually did a pretty good job. In fact, they did such a good job that Mercedes-Benz even invited a group of students to visit their factory. In fact, I think I have a picture from that one. So I ordered pictures from all of the symposia that we had, all of the companies that we visited. And so don't have space on my walls. So, but yeah, so that's, for example, the group that attended the meeting in, it was in Istanbul. They have a very big factory in Istanbul that makes buses and trucks. And so we had, I don't know how many, 35 students, 40 students maybe in that group. And so participated there. And so ever since, what we do is we select 5, sometimes 10 companies that come to us and ask for help. And then the students work in those international teams, and in the process, trying to sort of solve that problem. And again, in many cases, some teams, you know, don't do a very good job. You know, they try, but maybe, you know, it's not a stellar report. But because there are so many different teams and so many different students, in many cases, somebody comes up with a very good idea. And so this way you will be getting kind of two types of experiences. On the one hand, you will be getting the experience in cross-cultural collaboration, but on the other hand, you will also be getting the experience in business consulting. So we will have live webinars with the client companies. You will have a regular communication with basically the CEOs of those companies. You will provide your work to them. They will give you feedback. So by the end of the project, when you're done, you can say that not only did you complete a project in an international team, but you actually sort of served not quite as an employee, more as a consultant to a global, to an international company, and you completed a project for them. And so this way your resume will look very good, because most people, at least not most people of your age, they cannot say that, you know, not only did I finish college, not only did I do this and that and this, but I also completed a project in a team with people from 5 different countries working for a real company. And so here is my recommendation letter, here is my certificate, and here is a copy of the report or of the solution that I developed for that company. So that's basically, you know, the main intent. And then at the end of the project, you will all get 2 things. Let's see if I have a copy here. So one, you will get the certificates. It will look, that's an older version, so before it became too big, we were able to put the logo of each university on the page, so it looks something like this. Now there are so many participants, and I'm not sure if I have the latest copy here, but it will be something more like this. So there are so many participants that we no longer have enough space for all the logos, so it's just only the Xculture logo and the description of what you did. Plus, in addition, we sent to every student a recommendation letter. It's a lengthy document, about 3-4 pages. And so in that document, we explain what you did, what kind of skills you acquired, what kind of experiences you had, why it's important, and then a little overview of your own performance, how you did as a member of the team, how you did it as a business consultant. So some numbers, some specific review, and then obviously a recommendation. As long as you did well, a recommendation that we can recommend you for jobs that require cross-cultural collaboration, work in teams, complex problem solving, and things like that. Occasionally, some students don't do very well. It's a very small percentage, but we always have a few who didn't do well. They don't get the recommendations, but the vast majority do very well, and we are happy to recommend them for future jobs. And then we get quite a few letters from students later on who say, you know what, when I participated in this project, it was so tough. I actually didn't like it at all. So my team was not very cooperative. It was so much work. We had some conflicts. But you know what? Now looking back, actually, that was the best experience of my life. First of all, now I'm working for a company, and I see that kind of problem every day. And so in Xculture, it was tough, but it prepared me for those kinds of challenges. I knew better what to expect now. Second, that's actually how I got a job. So I was applying for a job, and there were 100 other applicants, and I wasn't any different. Everybody had a college diploma. Everybody had good grades. So, but then I pull out my certificate and I say, and by the way, I did complete a project working in a global virtual team, and here is my recommendation letter, here's my certificate, this is the company that I worked for, this is the sample of the work I did. And then the interviewer kind of wakes up like, oh, tell me more. And so before I knew it, I got the job. So hopefully that will be your experience too. So it will be tough, it will be demanding sometimes, people will be in different time zones, somebody may speak English with an accent or make some errors in the typing, you know, in the writing. There may be some people who will, I don't know, be more active, others will be less active. There may be even sometimes cross-cultural misunderstandings, but that's the whole point of the project. And in most cases, people like it very much. So about 92-93%, when we ask at the end of the project, how much did you like the project? About 92-93% give, I loved it. Then another 5% say, it was okay, it was fine. And then there are always like 2% who hate it. So they say, my team was bad, it didn't work well for me. So, but I guess, you know, you never can, you know, so many people, you never can keep everyone happy. Things sometimes can go wrong. Although, as I said, for the vast majority, we once even compared the evaluations of Xculture to the evaluations of iPhone X on Amazon. And so if you go and look at the evaluations of the iPhone, you would think like it's a good product, everybody should love it. But even there, they're like always like 2-3% of the reviews are negative. So apparently, even when you have a very, very good product, there will be always someone who will not be happy. So, but anyway, that's you know, that's the main description. And so the way it will go is the following. Over the next several weeks, as you are watching the lectures, there will be also little preparation materials for that project. So you will have a little bit, review of, how to work in global virtual teams, a little review on how to communicate online. So there will be like a training module that you will have to complete. Then before the project starts, which will be March the 4th, so in about a month from now, about 2 weeks before the project starts, you will receive an email from Xculture with a link to your, what we call, readiness test. So we want to make sure that before we place people on teams, international teams, we would like to make sure that they are prepared. So we want to make sure that they can understand English, that they can understand questions, how the project works. They have the basic understanding of, global virtual team collaboration, online communication, things like that, cross-cultural communication. And so you will see that link. You will click on the link. It will open a test, and you will take the test. So it should take about half an hour or so to complete. Usually about 95% of the people pass the test the first time. Another 3% or so pass it on the second try, and we allow people to take it again if they fail the first time. And then there are a few people who fail it even then. We don't place those people on teams. So what we do with them is we allow them to participate, but individually. I do not expect any of you to fail. Usually people who fail are either, in most cases, don't care at all. So like literally they just, don't care. And occasionally you may have a student or two who just don't speak English fluently enough. So, but that's rare. I'm sure you will be fine and will not have those kinds of problems. Then on March the 4th, we will place you on Teams, and you will receive an email with the names and the contacts, email addresses of your team members. From that point on, you're basically on your own. On your own is a strong word. From that point on, you can work as a team. So you will communicate first online by email, but then it's up to you how you want to communicate for the rest of the project. So in the training module, we will explain to you how different communication and online coordination tools work, from little things like Skype and Facebook groups, which I assume you know how they operate, to more sophisticated things like Dropbox and Google Docs and Trello and Slack and things like that. You don't have to use all those tools, stick only with emails, but most teams would probably have either a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group. Most teams would have at least occasional conversations in Skype or Zoom or something like that. So most teams would be probably using either Dropbox or Google Docs to co-edit the document. If you use email attachments very quickly, you have like 25 different conflicting copies of the file. So not the best way to go, but it's entirely up to you, your team, how you want to communicate. So I recommend that you do use Dropbox, for example. I recommend that you use at least occasionally Skype, but again, it's completely up to your team. And then every week, so once the teams are formed, every week you will have a set of deadlines, or deliverables. So like first week, you will just have to get to know each other. So you don't have to do anything. You just meet each other, sort of, make sure that the emails work and things like that. Then next week, you will have to select the client company. So as I said, you will have several companies to choose from. And so your team can choose any one company you like. So just to give you some examples of the companies this semester, there is, for example, a company called La Teresita. It's a Colombian company that produces tea. So they make tea. And so they sell tea in Latin America, but they want to expand beyond Latin America. And so the question they have is, how can we enter other markets? So who else would be buying our tea? How would we market it in that country? How much would it cost us to ship it to that country? Are there any trade regulations that we need to know? If we have to hire local people, where do we hire them? How much do we pay them? So things like that. Then, for example, there is a company called Unicorn Baby. They make shampoos, so all kinds of cleaning materials for kids, for babies. So it's an American company, and they make mainly shampoos, but also like some varieties of soap and lotions, things like that. Same thing. So they're pretty popular in North America, in Canada, and the United States, and they want to start selling their products elsewhere. Same question. So where do you think we can sell our products? What's the competition? What are the pros and cons or strengths and weaknesses compared to the competition? Let's say you say that they should sell the product in Lithuania or in Germany or France. Well, tell us a little bit about those countries. Tell us a little bit about the culture. Who else is selling shampoos? How should we advertise it? and things like that. So should it be a joint venture? Should it be a globally, I mean, a wholly owned subsidiary? So whichever way you want to go. There is an interesting company from the United States this semester too, called Marius Poop. So the company specializes in selling poop, manure. So Germans basically Scheiße, right? So they have all kinds of exotic animals, and so they sell high quality manure, mainly from alpacas like llamas, but also they have some other types of animals. And so people who have like little gardens or flowers, so they buy that exotic poop because apparently it's more nutritious than cow poop. And so they have a very small but a very devoted, following, so customers, and they're very popular here in the United States and Canada. But then again, they think that they may be able to sell that shit all around the world, and so they need your help. So a very interesting company. So that kind of stuff. So we have also one company that does plagiarism detection, another company that specializes in IT services, clothing, food, so kinds of, things like that. So you can choose any company you like, whichever one your team wants to go with. And once you decide on the client, as I said, we will have webinars with the company representatives, so you will be able to learn more about the company, ask questions. Then we'll have another webinar later on with each company where you will be able to present the ideas that you have at that time. And then at the end of the project, you submit the final report, and the company hopefully likes it so much that they offer you a job. And actually that does happen. So obviously no guarantees, but we've had in the past situations where companies liked so much the solutions that they tell us who did it. Maybe we can even offer that person some sort of an internship or some sort of a job. In the end, the final point, we will have the X-Culture Symposium. So the best students are invited to the symposium, and for 1 week, they will meet their team members. We will have visits to all kinds of companies, meet with the city officials, with the local entrepreneurs, professors, and things like that. So we've had, as I showed you the pictures, about 10 of them. The last one was here in the United States in Nashville, Tennessee. But before that, we had a symposium in Italy, in Macerata, had 5 companies as our clients. Met with the city mayor, it was a very, very interesting event, and so on. So usually we have 1 year in the United States, 1 year overseas. So this year it will be in Canada, it will be in Calgary. Actually it happens to be the university where I studied. So, and then after that we will have it in Grenada. It's a country in the Caribbean region. It's a small country right in the Caribbean. So again, not everyone will be invited to those meetings. We limit the number of seats to 150. But if you do well, you will get an invitation, and hopefully we will be able to meet there face to face. So that's basically it. And so when it comes to your course grade, it will be a combination of your exam grades, of your performance on those homework assignments, and then your performance in X-Culture. So on the exams, it's very simple. It's basically the percent of correct answers you give. That's your percentage. That's your exam grade. And usually people get about 80, 75 on average, plus or minus on the exams. Homework assignments, you will have, as I said, one little assignment, like, shouldn't take you more than half an hour to complete after each lecture. And so those are more or less pass or fail. So as long as you submit it on time and it looks reasonably good, you will get 100%, you will get full grade for that. And then X-Culture, it will be sort of a combination of pass-failing grades. So your peer evaluations will be prorated. So if you have good peer evaluations, you get good grade for that. If you get low peer evaluations, you get low grade. Your reports will be evaluated by 7 professors. So we send the reports to each to professors whose students are members of the team. And so I will evaluate them, but there will be also a few professors who will also look at your reports and will take the average. So whichever, whatever you get. Usually you get 100 for the report. As I said, as long as I like it, as long as it seems like you answered all the questions, and as long as the answers make sense, you will probably get full grade. Again, occasionally some teams do a very poor job or have plagiarism in them, but as long as you try and as long as you do a reasonably good job, you'll get a full grade. And yep, that's basically it. So in most cases, I'm trying to have the average of the course grade to be about 80% or 8 on the 10-point scale. But again, many students will get 10s, and who knows, maybe there will be someone who will be lower than that. So Yep, that's basically what I wanted to say. So tell me if you have any questions. Anyone?
I'm just asking, the course, is it for masters as well?
Can you clarify that?
Because in the description it says bachelor's and master's level, because I'm at master's and I was wondering whether I can take this course as well. So, because it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, no. So everybody participates. So every student in the course will participate in it. And so did you say you're a master's student or?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So that's very good. No problem there. So what we do is when we form the teams, we match the students by the level of studies, age, and work experience. And so even though the task is technically the same for everybody, but we have a little bit more expectations from the more mature master's students, and we match you with students of that same level and caliber. So this way you will not be, I mean, depending on your age and work experience, but you will be matched with people of as I said, your level. So you will not be working with kids, for example, or vice versa. Sometimes participants are older people. We have quite a few people, for example, who are full-time employees, who just happen to go back to school, but they're literally maybe like 45 years of age. And so we place those together as well because they have different demands. They may have families, they may have jobs. And so we want them to be also with people of the same sort of demographics. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize the cultural diversity, but try to match you on other dimensions. So this way you will be, with people who have roughly the same level of experience, age, intellectual kind of contribution, capability, so that there are no problems of that kind. So no worries about that.
Okay, thank you. And because it is not mentioned in the description, and I'm an Erasmus student, but I need to prove that it's master level at my home university. Can I just ask you for like a confirmation that it's master?
Yeah, we can do that. No problem at all. In fact, I'm teaching this same course at my university here. And for me, that is a master's level student course. So it's a Master's of Science in International Business. So my students actually even older because this program was designed for people who are full-time employees who take the course online. We meet occasionally, but they do most of the work online. So they're like 35, 40 years old. And so, yeah, in fact, that's how the course was initially designed for. So you will be in a good company. Those of you who are undergraduate students, again, I'm sure you'll do just fine. And as I said, we may understand, we understand that you may have a little bit less experience. So the expectations as far as the quality of the report may be slightly lower. But frankly, honestly, we see the quality of work of all kinds of, teams and ages and, experience levels. And it's not a fact that older students do better. I mean, often we see very, very good work from undergraduate students. Master students always do well as well. But like if I showed you kind of a typical report from the undergraduate team and a typical report from a master's team, chances are they will not be that different. Again, occasionally there will be some, differences, but undergraduate students do just as well. So. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the course design. As I said, I will post everything on Moodle today. They just gave me the access and I was finally able to log in. So all the assignments will be online, both as far as the materials, but also when the time comes to submit your work. And I guess we'll go from there. So I'll send you the syllabi as well. The syllabus, it will be on Moodle, but I'll probably send an email. The only problem I have, and I hope it's in the Moodle system, in the past, if this happens, don't be afraid. The Erasmus students, for some reason, are never in Moodle on time. So I always don't see their names initially, and then eventually they send me a separate link, and then somehow eventually we make it work. But in the past, you always guys were sort of missing. And so if you don't see the course right away, or if you don't get the communication from me right away, that's because I don't have your contacts. And I'm not sure why that happens all the time. Hopefully now it will be fine. But if that happens, no worries, we will get you up to speed. And maybe, just in case, let me write my email here. And maybe you can send me your email. So this way I'll have for sure your information in my system. And so even if you're not in Moodle for whatever reason, at least we will be able to communicate. So what I'll do is let me share the screen here. And so you will be able to, where is it? So you will be able, can you see my screen with my email address? So if you just write it down, just a second. if you write it down, and you can always also Google my name. I think the first link will be my university page, and you will have the contacts there as well. So this way, if you email me, I will manually add you to my system, and at least you will get all the correspondence on time. So even if for some reason you will not be in Moodle right away. Again, it's been 2 years since I did it last time, so hopefully by now the system works better, but I remember that we always had difficulties seeing the Erasmus students for some reason. So. All right, so anything else?
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
What are the weights? You mentioned that there are like 3 exams and then this project. What are the weights?
Let me check in the syllabus what I put there, but I'll send it to you. So the exams are each 20%, and then participation, so the combination of those homework assignments, it's 10%. And then, in fact, let me share it. I probably should have shared it right away because I have the syllabus right here. But so this will be the grade distribution. So the exams are not that expensive in a sense. So if you don't do so well, it's still okay. You can still get an A or 10 or whatever the grade is for the course. So, so these will be basically what you get is what you get. As I said, on average, in the past, students got about 75 class average, sometimes 80. So it shouldn't be a problem at all. And the exams, by the way, are open books, open notes. So since you take it online, there is no way I can guarantee that you will not be copying, so cheating. So therefore, the way we can deal with the cheating is we can allow you to do whatever you want. So this way you cannot cheat because you are allowed to use the book, you are allowed to use the notes. So it doesn't matter to me, but you will have a limited time. So you will have, I think it's 1.5 hours or 75 minutes. Once the exam starts, you have that much time to complete the test. But other than that, you can use any resources you want. I would not be happy if you formed teams. I mean, in theory, what you can do, I probably shouldn't be giving you tips, but in theory, what you can do, you can come as a team to the exam and then have someone who will take the test first. And that person will take the test and you will use your cameras and you will snap the pictures of every question. And then you take a break and you find the answers to all the questions. And then you have the answers and then you do the test together, you know, everybody using the answer key. But obviously that would be unethical. So I hope you will not do that. And then my way to prevent that is that I have a large pool of questions and you will all be given, I believe it's 25 questions per exam, but they are selected from a large pool at random. So this way, everybody will see a slightly different pool of questions presented in a different order. So this way, what I just described technically can help you, but not so much because chances are you will see a different set of questions. But other than that, so as long as you're not cooperating and as long as you're not kind of, you know, working as a team, but individually, I'm perfectly fine if you use your book, if you use your laptop, if you use your whatever you need to use for the exam. But again, on average, you'll probably get about 75, 80 on the exam. For participation, as I said, as long as you do those homework assignments, you will get full grades. So as long as you do it on time, you will get 100. And then Xculture, again, probably all of you or most of you will get 100, unless, as I said, your team will give you low peer evaluations, like maybe you never participated, you were always absent. Or if you, I don't know, write such a bad report that I look at it and it's like, whoa, I mean, that's not even close, not even on topic. So in that case, you can get a lower grade. But otherwise, you should get a good grade for the project as well. It will be a lot of work, but you should do just fine. Yep, that's basically what we have. Anyone else? All right, well then, so have a nice day. Oh, one more question I want to ask that's very important, meetings. So I would like to have, as I said, 3 live sessions like this one before the exams, and we may have one more at the very end, kind of farewell. So sort of review how the semester went, you know, share experiences, maybe do quick presentations of your Xculture projects. We'll see if we have time for that at that time. But the question I have for you is, would it be okay if we met the way we meet today? So you are in the classroom, I am here, and so you meet as a group. That way we have only 2 video streams. It works very well. It's easy for me to connect, so it should be no problem. The alternative option could be that you can meet with me online from home. I mean, like if it's Zoom, there is no problem if you all log in from wherever you are. You can use your smartphones, you can use your computers. So technically it doesn't matter to me where you are. My only problem then is that for some of the students, the connection will be poor. You know, if everybody is all around the city, I guess, you know, it may be difficult to connect. So I guess I wouldn't mind if we did it that way, but my preference would be to do it like this. Obviously for you, it's inconvenience because you have to be there at a specific hour in a specific room. And so the question is it okay for you to meet like today, or would you prefer to be able to meet from home as long as you have access to the internet? Any preferences here?
I think it's okay as a group.
You all live, I assume, not too far away from campus, right? So it shouldn't be too hard for you to show up at 4 p.m. 3 times a semester, right? It should be fine. Okay. Yeah, so, and we will probably record these meetings, so if something goes wrong, you know, you will be able to watch it later if you miss it. But yes, it would be my preference that you meet, you know, show up in person here, and then we communicate with you as a group. All right, well then that's it. So thank you so much for your attention. So I'll post all the materials on on Moodle, and yeah, we'll go from there. All right, thank you so much. Yes, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir. And I should have learned it in Lithuanian. I'll do it by next time.
Bye.
Es ist sehr schön, Sie kennen zu lernen. So I cannot say that in French, no. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mhm.